500,000 years after the Galactic Council blasted Earth into oblivion, the last remnants of humanity emerged from cryo-sleep in a hidden base buried deep below the surface of the remote planet Tharsis. The faint hum of the cryo chambers gave way to blaring alarms as the pods hissed open, spilling out the surviving members of the human race. Tyler Bryant stumbled out of his pod, muscles atrophied from 500,000 years of forced hibernation. He looked around the cavernous chamber, seeing the pods of his fellow rebels opening one by one. They were the last free humans in existence. Soldiers and scientists and engineers, men and women driven by one purpose: revenge against the alien council that had wiped out their homeworld. Humanity's numbers had been reduced to a mere few thousand, but in the centuries they'd slept beneath Tharsis, the human rebels had been preparing. Automated cloning tanks had grown new bodies by the hundreds. Gene editing machines spliced and enhanced DNA to create the optimum human war machine. Humanity would have its revenge in the form of the Warbeasts, 9-foot-tall slabs of muscle and armor, armed with diamond-hard claws capable of shredding steel, skin as tough as tank armor, metabolisms supercharged by cocktails of combat drugs and stimulants. The Warbeasts were the key to the humans' vengeance, 500,000 years in the making, and Tyler would be the tip of the spear, leading the charge. The remnants of the human leadership called a meeting in the base's dimly lit briefing room. Admiral Xiang, Chief Science Officer Petrova, and other representatives of the Rebel Council. "I'm sure you have many questions," Xiang said as Tyler took his seat. "But the short answer is that after the Council destroyed Earth, the last human ship escaped with a few thousand survivors. We fled to the edge of the galaxy and have spent the last 500,000 years preparing." He laid out the plan. The rebel fleet would translate in at the edge of the Talax system. The ships would hold at the perimeter and wait for Tyler's signal. Tyler would lead an advance team of Warbeasts to Talax itself. They had to infiltrate key council facilities on the planet's surface and upload a virus to sabotage the planetary defense grid and communication relays. Once those were down, the rebel fleet could jump in and hit the council forces before they even knew what was happening. It was a risky plan. Tyler and his team would be alone on an alien world, surrounded by council troops and security forces. If they were detected, the humans' element of surprise would be lost. The council ships would swarm the rebel fleet and incinerate it. The whole rebel army, the last free humans in the galaxy, could be wiped out in minutes, all at the hands of the Talaxian Emperor Yaris, the same alien bastard who had ordered the destruction of Earth. Tyler gritted his teeth, an old fury welling up inside him. He remembered the council ships descending on Earth, disintegrating cities, melting the ice caps and boiling the oceans. 17 billion humans dead in a single day. An entire civilization erased. And now Tyler would personally lead the mission to avenge humanity, to decapitate the leadership of the Talaxian Empire and throw their forces into chaos, to make the alien scum drown in rivers of their own blood. The survival of the human race hung on this first strike. For the first time in 500,000 years, the Council would know fear. They thought the human infection had been cauterized, but they were wrong. Soon, the Warbeasts would be unleashed on an unsuspecting galaxy, and the Council would pay for their sins against humanity, even if it took another 500,000 years. There would be no place in the universe they could hide from the wrath of mankind. The human rebels had waited an eternity for their revenge. It was finally time to bring the Council to its knees or die trying. Tyler looked around the briefing room at the grim faces of his fellow rebels, the last free members of the human race. He needed to give them hope. He stood up and slammed his hand on the table. "I know we've been beaten, we've been broken, we've been scattered to the winds, but this is our chance to make those alien fucks pay for what they did to Earth. 500,000 years ago, we fought to save humanity. Now we fight to avenge it." Tyler's words echoed through the briefing room, igniting a spark of defiance in the eyes of the assembled rebels. They had struck the first blow against the Council, but the war was just the beginning. On the bridge of the flagship Vengeance, Tyler conferred with the captains of the other human ships via hologram. Their faces flickered with static, a reminder of the vast distances separating them. "Our attack on the Talaxian homeworld was just the beginning," Tyler said. "We've bloodied their nose, but now the real fight starts. The Council will be coming for us with everything they've got." Reports flooded in from human scout ships, detailing a massive buildup of alien forces in the nearby Talaxian system. The Council was rallying its vassal races, marshalling an armada to crush the human rebellion before it could gain momentum. Intelligence pointed to the enemy gathering point, Carrick, a heavily fortified Talaxian colony filled with warships and orbital gun platforms. And in command of this juggernaut was Dravis, a Talaxian admiral notorious for his cunning and utter lack of mercy. Even across the light years, Tyler could feel Dravis's malevolent presence, a specter of vengeance bent on humanity's annihilation. The Talaxian had a score to settle. He would not rest until every last human in the galaxy was wiped out. But Dravis possessed an even deadlier weapon than his assembled war fleet, a bioweapon known as the Zeren, an engineered plague designed to exterminate mankind down to the last DNA strand. One vial could render an entire planet lifeless. Tyler smacked his fist against the wall. He wouldn't let his species be snuffed out by a test tube. If the Talaxians wanted genocide, he'd give them a war instead. "Drake, with me. We're going in," Tyler growled to his most trusted lieutenant. The rest of the Warbeast pack fell in behind them, armored boots thudding against the deck. Sympathetic sources on Carrick had leaked the location of the bioweapon, a secure research compound, where Dravis's top agent Zirian was en route with a strike team to collect the Zeren and bring it to the Talaxian fleet. Humanity's survival hinged on stealing the plague before the Council could unleash it. "We can't fly in guns blazing, or they'll deploy the Zeren on the spot," Tyler said, pulling up a hollow schematic of the facility. "We go in quiet, neutralize Zirian, secure the package, and haul ass out." Warbeast Sergeant Vega flashed a predatory grin. "Hoo-ah, Commander. Time to add some more Talaxian pelts to the collection." Under cover of a solar flare, Tyler's commandos slipped past Carrick's sensor grid in captured stealth shuttles, jamming their drive signatures to match local traffic. Targeting scopes flickering in the reddish twilight, the Warbeasts drilled into the research compound in a surgical drop that left sentry guns sparking and slagged. Inside the sterile labyrinth of the biolab, Tyler's squad moved like vengeful wraiths, flowing from room to room and cutting down Talaxian guards with ruthless precision. Gunfire stuttered in the corridors. Screams of the dying mingled with blaring decontamination alarms. And then they were face to face with Zirion himself, a whipcord alien merc in a sealed envirosuit, slitted eyes glinting with malice behind his visor. The Talaxian and his elite killers opened fire in the zero-gravity confines of the biolab's central isolation chamber. Warbeast Brock took a disruptor bolt point blank, armor spiderwebbing before the auto shields kicked in. Vega put 2 more attackers down in sprays of dark ichor. "Cover!" Drake shouted as the humans dove behind the twisting curves of the lab's cryostasis tubes. Particles of frozen condensation drifted past Tyler's battle helm. He sighted down the barrel of his pulsar as Zirion orbited past in a graceful arc and squeezed the trigger. The merc's shields flared and died. His envirosuit tore open in a venting plume of pressurized mist. Tyler kicked off the cryotubes, grappling the Talaxian in a tangle of limbs as they spiraled through the isolation chamber. Zirion snarled and drove an elbow into Tyler's faceplate. Microfractures spidered across the commander's HUD. With a vicious twist, Tyler sent the alien careening into a bulkhead. Zirion's helmet shattered. His final breath misted in the freezing air as he slumped dead. "Package secure!" Vega called, holding up a cylindrical biocontainment unit pulsing with sickly light, the Zeren. A new alarm blared, an urgent repeating klaxon. "It's a self-destruct," Drake shouted, consulting a flickering wall screen. "Zirion must have triggered it. We've got 3 minutes before this place blows." Tyler gritted his teeth. "Double time it back to the shuttles. Move!" The Warbeasts fought their way back through the facility in a running battle. Talaxian reinforcements flooding in only to be cut down in storms of flechette rounds. The deck shuddered as explosive charges began to detonate in rippling chains. Fire and debris geysered from the biolab as the humans piled into their stealth ships. Grasping the Zarin container, Tyler threw himself into the command chair and wrenched back the throttle, lifting the shuttle in a wild corkscrew through the disintegrating structure. Girders buckled. Chambers collapsed in gouts of flame. The infiltration team streaked up and away as the orbital platform exploded behind them, the fireball consuming itself in the vacuum. "All teams check in," Tyler panted over the comm, G-forces tugging at him as they hurtled toward the rendezvous coordinates. Wyvern 1 got some carbon scoring, but we're in one piece. Wyvern 2 here, we're nursing a few grazes, but still breathing. Tyler exhaled as the battered stealth ships sailed into the Vengeance's cavernous hangar, the flagship's gray hull embracing them. The Warbeasts stomped down the landing ramp, Tyler still clutching the Zarin bioweapon. Its dim glow painted the hangar in a corpse-light sheen. He turned to Drake, slapping his lieutenant on the shoulder. "Get our lab boys on this thing pronto. If we can crack its delivery vector and synthesize a countermeasure..." Drake nodded grimly. "We might just pull our nuts out of the fire yet. I'll get the eggheads wired in." In the Vengeance's sealed biocontainment vault, Tyler watched through an observation port as human scientists in full enviro gear poured over the captured Zarin with scanners and probulators. Dr. Amar, the lead researcher, stepped out of the airlock, pulling off her breathing mask. "The Zarin's a masterpiece of destructive genetic engineering," she said. "It's tailored to infect and utterly ravage the human genome." Tyler's blood ran cold. There has to be a way to beat this thing before Talax can cook up more and chuck it at us. Amar frowned. "Based on our initial analysis, I believe a dual-filter counteragent could neutralize the Zarin's key RNA resequencers, but manufacturing it requires a rare catalyzing compound, Zarinium isotopes." She called up a holo map of a remote star system on the fringes of Talaxian space, enlarging a rocky planetoid swathed in the infrared hues of geothermal lava flows. "The richest known supply of Zarinium ore is here," Amar said. "On the volcanic moon Vilos in the Damari system, thousands of light years from our current position." Tyler's eyes hardened. A clock was ticking. The noose of the Council Armada tightened around them. And now the only thing standing between humanity and genocidal oblivion lay buried deep in hostile territory. Tyler Bryant stood on the bridge of the Retribution, his eyes fixed on the holographic display of the Damari system. The stealth frigate's engines hummed softly as they approached their target. "All systems dark," reported the helmsman. "We're riding the convoy's wake." Tyler nodded, his teeth gritted. "Maintain distance. We can't risk detection." The Retribution slipped through space, a ghost trailing the lumbering cargo haulers. As they neared the system's outer defense perimeter, Tyler felt sweat bead on his forehead. "Incoming scan," warned the sensor officer. "Tight beam data package ready." "Execute," Tyler ordered. A burst of carefully crafted false credentials shot towards the Talaxian checkpoint. Tense seconds ticked by as they waited for a response. "We're clear," the comms officer finally announced. "They bought it." Collective sighs of relief filled the bridge, but Tyler knew the real challenge lay ahead. Once past the defenses, the Retribution peeled away from the convoy, plotting a circuitous course through the system's planetoid belt. Tyler watched grimly as the massive Talaxian fleet came into view, thousands of warships assembling for their impending assault on human space. "Drop pods prepped and loaded," Drake reported over the comm. "Strike team ready to deploy on your order." "Acknowledged," Tyler replied. "Stand by." The Retribution crept closer to their target, a nondescript asteroid housing the cloaked human lab. Suddenly, alarms blared. "Multiple contacts," shouted the sensor officer. "Talaxian hunter-killers on an intercept course." "They've made us," Tyler growled. "All hands, battle stations, launch the pods." The Retribution shuddered as drop pods blasted free, hurtling towards the asteroid. Tyler sprinted for the launch bay, donning his assault armor as he ran. Laser fire lanced through space as Talaxian fighters swooped in. The pods jinked and weaved. Their occupants jostled violently. Tyler's pod slammed into the asteroid's surface, hatch blowing open on impact. He leapt out, pulsar rifle at the ready. All around, his warbeasts emerged from their pods, immediately trading fire with Talaxian troops. "Push for the lab entrance," Tyler shouted over the din of battle. "Drake, cover our 6." They fought their way across the asteroid's cratered surface, Talaxian rounds pinging off their armor. A missile streaked in, detonating meters away and sending Tyler sprawling. He scrambled to his feet, seeing the lab's cloaking field flicker and fail under the barrage. "Move, move!" he urged his team forward. They reached the airlock just as the lab's shields collapsed completely. Inside, panicked scientists rushed to complete the Zeren countermeasure synthesis. "We need more time!" Dr. Amar yelled as Tyler burst in. "You'll get it," he promised grimly, turning back to the corridor where Drake and the Warbeasts were already engaged with Talaxian shock troops. The battle raged through twisting tunnels, neither side giving ground. Tyler heard Drake cry out as a Karn warrior's energy blade sliced through his armor. "Countermeasures ready," Amar called. "We have to go now." Tyler scooped up the precious vials, shouting for a retreat. They fell back to the retribution under withering fire, dragging their wounded. The frigate's engines roared to life as they sealed the airlock. Tyler felt the deck lurch as they pulled away, narrowly evading the inferno of Talaxian incendiary weapons that consumed the lab. "Multiple hostiles on our tail," the pilot reported tensely. "Navigating the minefield now." Tyler gripped the command chair as the retribution threaded its way through the deadly obstacle course, Talaxian pursuers exploding around them. "Jump drive spooled," the engineer shouted. "Ready on your mark." "Do it!" Tyler bellowed. Stars blurred as they leapt to warp, leaving the Damari system behind. Tyler sagged in relief, clutching the case holding humanity's best hope for survival. But as the adrenaline faded, the cost of their mission became clear. Drake lay in the medbay, critically wounded. Other warbeasts hadn't made it at all. And burned into Tyler's mind was the image of Dravis's vast armada, a hammer poised to crush what remained of the human race. The swirling gas clouds of the Jorian Nebula concealed the massed human fleet. Aboard the flagship Vengeance, Commander Tyler Bryant stood before a holographic display of the Corazia system, his face illuminated by the eerie glow of distant stars. "Final checks complete," Admiral Sarah Kingsley reported, her voice tight with tension. "All ships report ready status." Tyler nodded, his eyes never leaving the hologram. "Commence Operation Endgame." Across Talaxian space, human strike teams sprang into action. Stealth craft slipped past defense grids, disgorging Warbeast commandos onto orbital platforms and supply depots. Explosions blossomed in the void as key facilities crumbled. On the factory world of Nex Prime, Sergeant Vega led his team through smoke-filled corridors. Talaxian workers fled in panic as the Warbeasts methodically planted demolition charges. "Charges set," Vega growled into his comm. "Exfil in 30. The strike team sprinted for their extraction point as the orbital shipyard above them shuddered and broke apart, raining debris onto the planet below. Supreme Admiral Dravis raged on the bridge of the Indomitable, his tentacles writhing in fury as reports of sabotage flooded in. "Accelerate the timetable," he barked. "Concentrate our forces at Corazia. We end this now." In the briefing room of the Vengeance, Tyler addressed his assembled warbeasts. Drake Wagner stood at his side, his cybernetic eye gleaming in the low light. "This is it," Tyler said, his voice grave. "Our final push. We've bloodied them, but Dravis still has the Zeren. If we can't neutralize it, humanity is finished." He activated a hollow schematic of the Indomitable. "We'll infiltrate via high-altitude drop, breach the outer hull here, and fight our way to the command deck. Once there, we upload the countermeasure and cripple their bioweapon." Drake spoke up, his voice hard. "And if we can't reach the upload point?" Tyler met his gaze. "Then we make sure that ship never leaves Corazia alive." The Warbeasts nodded grimly, checking their weapons one last time. Alarms blared as the human fleet engaged the Talaxian defenders. Amid the chaos of battle, stealth dropships carrying Tyler's team slipped past the Indomitable's outer defenses. "Go, go, go!" Tyler shouted as the dropship's hatch blew open. He leapt into the void, the Warbeasts following close behind. They plummeted through the ship's energy shield, armor smoking from the friction. Breach charges detonated, blowing a hole in the Indomitable's hull. Tyler rolled to his feet, pulsar rifle up and firing. Talaxian crew died in droves as the Warbeasts stormed inside. "Wagner, Gennari, take your teams and hit their secondary systems," Tyler ordered. "We'll push for the command deck." The corridors of the alien flagship became a killing ground. Karn warriors charged the humans, energy blades clashing against nanosteel combat knives. Tyler's enhanced reflexes allowed him to dance between plasma bolts, each squeeze of his trigger finding its mark. They fought their way up through the ship, leaving a trail of Talaxian corpses in their wake. Tyler's armor was scored and dented, but the Warbeasts pressed on relentlessly. Finally, they reached the sealed blast doors of the command deck. Tyler nodded to his demo specialist. "Blow it." The doors vanished in a thunderous explosion. Tyler charged through the smoke, coming face to face with Admiral Dravis himself. The Talaxian Supreme Commander towered over him, tentacles writhing. "So," Dravis hissed, "the human vermin show themselves at last." Tyler raised his rifle, but Dravis was faster. A whip-like appendage knocked the weapon aside. Another slammed into Tyler's chest, sending him sprawling. The two leaders clashed in a brutal melee. Tyler's augmented strength and speed were matched by Dravis's alien physiology and centuries of combat experience. They traded blows that would have pulverized ordinary beings. All around them, Warbeasts and Karn tore into each other with primal fury. The command deck became an abattoir of blood and shattered cybernetics. Tyler staggered back, his armor cracked and sparking. Dravis loomed over him, tentacles poised to deliver the killing blow. With a final burst of desperate strength, Tyler surged forward. His armored fist connected with Dravis's face in a sickening crunch. The Talaxian admiral stumbled, giving Tyler the opening he needed. He drove Dravis back, raining down blows until the alien collapsed. Tyler stood over his fallen foe, chest heaving. "It's over, Dravis," he panted. "Surrender and we can end this madness." The dying admiral's laugh was a wet, choking sound. "Fool," Dravis gurgled. "You understand nothing. The Zarin is not merely your doom, but the doom of all. We will cleanse this galaxy of its teeming filth and start anew." Tyler recoiled in horror as the full scope of the Talaxian plan became clear. This was no mere war of conquest. It was galactic genocide on an unimaginable scale. His hands shook as he accessed the ship's systems, preparing to upload the countermeasure. But Tyler hesitated, Dravis' words echoing in his mind. The countermeasure would stop the Zarin from targeting humans, but it wouldn't prevent the pathogen's galaxy-wide devastation. In that moment, Tyler made his choice. He aborted the upload and instead began the process to overload the Indomitable's warp core. "What are you doing?" one of his Warbeasts shouted. Tyler's voice was iron as he worked the alien controls. "Saving the galaxy the only way we can." He looked up at his team, his eyes filled with grim purpose. "Get to the escape pods, now." As his soldiers reluctantly withdrew, Tyler remained at the controls. The ship shuddered as its reactor began to destabilize. He thought of Earth, of all they had sacrificed to reach this point. It hadn't been enough to save humanity, but perhaps it would be enough to save everything else. "Fuck you and your dead cosmos," Tyler snarled at Dravis's corpse as the warp core went critical. The Indomitable detonated in a cataclysmic blast that ripped through the Karazia system. Talaxian ships tumbled out of formation, their systems scrambled by the electromagnetic pulse. Aboard the human flagship, now heavily damaged, Drake Wagner watched in stunned silence as the explosion faded. Around him, the bridge crew worked frantically to assess the situation. "Report!" Admiral Kingsley barked. "The Talaxian fleet is in disarray," an officer replied. "But, sir, we've lost contact with Commander Bryant's team." Drake's heart sank as the full weight of what had happened settled over him. Tyler was gone. So many of his brothers and sisters in arms, gone. And for what? He stared out at the ravaged battlefield, realizing that this was no triumph. The Zeren still existed. The Talaxians, though bloodied, still posed a threat. All their sacrifice had bought them was a temporary reprieve from annihilation. As the surviving Warbeasts regrouped, Drake saw the truth reflected in their eyes. There would be no end to this war, no real victory, only an endless struggle against those who would reduce the galaxy to lifeless ash. He clenched his fist, feeling the weight of command settle onto his shoulders. Tyler was gone, but the fight would go on. It had to. The alternative was oblivion itself.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.